This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined as always by Brendan. We are coming to you on Sunday. It is August 27th. And Brendan, the Cubs, not only did they win on a Sunday, Brendan, but we finally got what we've been waiting for really all week, right? Maybe a couple weeks, a blowout,
I
needed
this.
Easy win. We could put our feet up and watch Cody Bellinger and Jeimer Candelario and Seiya Suzuki pace the offense behind a brilliant day of homegrown pitching for the Chicago Cubs. We have so much to talk about. A very good week for the Chicago Cubs. 5-2 here with the road trip. They finish 8-4 in that 12-game stretch against the kind of subpar competition that we were looking at. The Brewers are winning at the moment, so it looks like the Cubs will trail by 4 games when the Brewers arrive at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field on Monday night. But Brendan, the story in Pittsburgh, the Cubs take 3-4, winning 10-1 on Sunday to take the series. The story in Pittsburgh was the homegrown pitching for the Chicago Cubs. Justin Steele, Jordan Wicks, and Javier Assad.
What a week.
Unbelievable.
What a week. I mean, Assad this week, almost 13 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 3 earned runs. Today, 7 innings, 7 Ks, 2 walks, 1 earned run, giving the bullpen a break. That coupled with Jordan Wicks, 5 innings, 9 strikeouts in his debut. Jameson Taillon did look shaky, but still provided almost 6 innings earlier in the week. And of course, Justin Steele doing Justin Steele things. So it was a good week overall for the homegrown guys. And at least for the other pitchers, despite not having good stuff like Taillon, they did go deep. So that is all I'm asking for with Stroman out, is just give the middle portion of this bullpen kind of like a little bit of a breather. That way Ross can use, Alzolay in the best leverage situations rather than forcing the issue in games like on Saturday. So it was a good week. And the homegrown pitching, man, we've been wanting this for years, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look, by the technical definition, right, Kyle Hendricks is not a Chicago Cubs homegrown pitcher, but
he is.
Kind of, right? Like they traded for him. He spent a lot of time in their minor league system. He's a product of their system, but by the definition, not signed or drafted initially by the Chicago Cubs.
No, he's homegrown.
But also a good start for Kyle Hendricks on Saturday. Started out shaky, but he settled in. But Brendan, I know we have to talk about Javier Assad. It was an incredible start for Javier on Sunday, but we're going to start with Jordan Wicks. Before we dive into Jordan Wicks, because he makes his MLB debut on Saturday, absolutely sensational after getting, he gets jumped on that first batter, taken deep, but settles in an incredible way to go on to strike out 9 Pirates, picking up his first win. Just an unbelievable night for the Chicago Cubs. But looking at things as a whole, Brendan, I tweeted this out earlier. The homegrown starters, again, by definition, that is Justin Steele, Jordan Wicks, and Javier Assad. Hendricks close, but doesn't count. A total this weekend in Pittsburgh, 18 innings pitched, just 11 hits, just 4 earned runs, 22 strikeouts to 5 walks for a 2.00 ERA. That is between Justin Steele, Jordan Wicks, and Javier Assad. Just masterful work. And I mean, the fact that as an organization, if you've been a fan of this organization for any amount of time, really, like this is uncharted territory for us, for you and I, especially as Chicago Cubs fans, to have this much homegrown talent. I mean, what are we talking? Like back since like Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, like that era, right?
Yeah, those were the days.
Right.
But the way that Wicks went out and pitched well, really encouraging. If you look at what he actually did from a pitching strategy perspective, you can see his zone profile. He went down in a way to right-handed batters with changeups.
Yeah.
And he used those changeups more than any other pitch type, Corey. And you can see that if you're on the Apple or Spotify feed, you can see this on the YouTube channel. And then he was able to use the same window with four-seam fastballs and sinkers, and then cutters down and in to right-handed batters, and actually use curveballs off of that same window as well. If you look at this chart, this is like beautiful. This is artistic, Corey.
Yeah.
And that is the contrast when we talk about other guys going through the system, like Ben Brown, like even Hayden Wisniewski. They aren't as advanced in developing those secondary pitch types as Wicks is right now. He has that strong foundation, but he also has the capacity to use those cutters, curveballs, and sliders that seem to be a little bit more advanced than the other guys against opposite handedness. An incredible start, bulldog mentality. If this continues, I mean, I don't see how you can't mentally slot in Jordan Wicks as a significant contributor even for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much to say about that debut. Overall, 5 innings, just 2 hits. So he gives up the leadoff home run and then just 1 hit from that point. I believe he retired the final 15 batters that he faced. Just the 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. Just masterful stuff. And there's a few things that really stood out for me, right? The first thing was, again, no one when he came up was guaranteeing that that was the performance you were going to get. But it does sort of instantly validate what a lot of people, not just you and me, not just CHGO Cubs, pretty much everybody that talks about this team, wanted them to try something other than Drew Smyly, right? That was not working. It was a pretty long sample at that point of those starts not working out. Try something else. They do, and they get an absolute gem out of it. And as I talked about, I think with you and when I did the postgame show with Ryan after this first win in Pittsburgh, it has a galvanizing effect, right? It's exciting for young players to come up and make those debuts. And even for the veterans, guys like Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger, they like seeing that stuff. It's exciting for the clubhouse. It's exciting for the team to promote guys from within and get those big moments. Jordan Wicks' family is on the field celebrating after the game. You saw how many guys were so happy for Jordan Wicks, like Adbert Alzolay, so many of these guys that have been in this system with these guys together. But then, looking more specifically, you tweeted out a video that was just all of the changeups that he threw. I think you said 54.
No, he had 27 changeups.
27 changeups.
Basically 54 because I kept watching them.
Yeah. But what really stands out, and we had some commentary in the YouTube chat. If you're watching us live on YouTube, hop in that chat. Let us know what you're thinking. We are, reading and watching. Mike Mash on our YouTube chat pointed out, so disciplined in that lower half of the zone, only, a few pitches that were even above the waist. But you watch that video of those changeups, just beautiful stuff, man. Burying it, letting it fade down and away to those right-handed hitters, burying it below the zone. And the Pirates, while not a good team, like they've got some good hitters in that lineup. And like he was making, Andrew McCutchen take some really ugly swings, Brian Reynolds, like keeping guys really off balanced. And one last thing, just like as I'm rambling about Jordan Wicks, because this was just unbelievable.
Doing it. I don't mind it.
It was really nice to see. I was watching an interview with AAA broadcaster Alex Cohn that I think he did on the Marquee Network before the start. And one of the things that Alex was talking about was just how dependable Jordan Wicks was and how much he seemed to learn throughout his starts, right? If he got into trouble early or a pitch wasn't working, Alex was describing how you could really see the gears work in his head as the start would go on, for him to stabilize things and not let the start get away from him and be able to get through 5 innings or so. And that is exactly what you watched him do at the major league level. That first inning was messy, gives up the home run. You had some base runners there with the walk, and he settles in and calms down and ends up giving you 5 innings, striking out 9 guys. It was really nice to sort of see the reputation that Jordan Wicks had developed in the minor leagues show up on day one in the major leagues, that this was a guy who, even if he faced a little adversity, he was going to settle down, he was going to stay in the moment and deliver his stuff.
We talked about leadership last week, and there's always this weird thing, clubhouse culture is not as significant as it's made out to be, but this was a great example of why this environment does have specific effects on preventing runs. Miguel Amaya caught Jordan Wicks. Miguel Amaya is Kyle Hendricks. You can call him personal catcher at this point. Kyle Hendricks calls his own games. Kyle Hendricks is throwing more changeups at any point in his career. So Jordan Wicks now being caught by Miguel Amaya, who's basically taking class from Kyle Hendricks every fifth day, what does he do? He calls the most changeups for Jordan Wicks. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but you have to imagine him calling Wicks' game is in part due to what he's learning from Kyle Hendricks, who he himself leans exhaustively on those changeups. And the fact that you saw Wicks have success right away early on after that first home run settled down, I couldn't stop thinking about the effect Kyle Hendricks had on promoting Amaya's development, and that right away directly impacted perhaps Jordan Wicks. It was really beautiful, and it highlights, I think, the advantage that this Cubs team has with some of these attitudes and these veterans on this staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Wicks, the first Cubs pitcher since 1961 to retire at least 15 batters in a row in a major league debut. Really just masterful stuff. And the rotation stepped up. The rotation stepped up this weekend. We talked about it for a while. They really needed to step up and deliver some good starts. And you got nice starts, not by definition quality starts, right? Like by the technical, statistical definition, 6 innings, less than 3 runs. But really nice starts from this staff all weekend. And even the game with Kyle Hendricks, right? Like Kyle Hendricks did not, he deserved a W in that game. He pitched well enough for this team to win. They just struggled against Mitch Keller. It happens, right? Mitch Keller was really good in that game on Friday. These things happen. But just an incredible job from Jordan Wicks and the rotation as a whole. Want to shout out Birdie Russell in our YouTube chat, joining for the first time on YouTube from Spain. Hello.
Wow.
Very cool
Hello.
when people are with us from across the world.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Javier Assad and Keegan Thompson, some of the more homegrown pitching that we saw on Sunday. But generally, Brendan, right, like it's, before we get further deep in the weeds on some of these individual players, it's frustrating that the Brewers keep riling off these wins, right? No doubt. And I saw some chatter on social media like it was 8-4 good enough in these 12 games. Like, everybody can have their own opinion on that, but the Cubs played at a really good pace. 8 out of 12 is a very good pace, over the course of 162 games. And as you saw, I know people don't want to hear it, right? But it's not that easy to just clean up in these games. The Cubs had a very hot stretch heading into that trade deadline, just like the Brewers are on right now, where it felt like they were going to win every night, right? And you go on the road here, you play some lesser competition, you go 8-4, like that's a win. If you can play at that pace throughout the season, that's going to get the job done. You cannot control what Milwaukee does except for these next 3 games at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. So that's where you're going to have to make your money if you're going to make up ground in the division. But I think the Cubs did a nice job. And as you saw over the weekend, like Parker Meadows on Detroit, the guy that, I think got his first hit against the Cubs when the Cubs were visiting Detroit. They were showing his family, yada, yada. Hit a walk-off home run against the Houston Astros, right? So, like, these teams, even though they're dead in the water and way out of it, they still have good players. They still, show up to the ballpark and are major league talented players every day. I'm taking 8-4. I saw a lot of, debate that you want better, sure, right? But, like, sweeping teams and stuff like that, it's not that easy. The Cubs did what they needed to do in this stretch from the bigger picture, I believe. Yeah,
and they're going through a little bit of a transition pitching-wise. Bullpen, Michael Fulmer is on the IL with a forearm strain. Marcus Stroman, of course, we know his problems. We have innings limits, pitch limits approaching for certain guys on the staff and in AAA. This was a really important week. Of course, you want to sweep Pittsburgh in a 4-game set. Like, to win 3 of 4 in the fashion they did with the pitching performances they did, mentally for me was huge. And yeah, it sucks to see Milwaukee continue to win, but you keep playing like this, the offense keeps performing in terms of the quality of the at-bats. Granted, I know some of the batted balls didn't fall. You want more offense overall, but just the quality of the at-bats, the approach. If that stays consistent, I imagine they're going to be in a good position. They come up with Milwaukee here very soon. They take care of business. Milwaukee falters for a few games, and they're right back in it. We know, based on our history being atop the division for several years, things like this tend to happen, where all of a sudden the team below you plays well, and you're just going through a little bit of a funk, and the standings can change. And it's still relatively early. I know there's a lot of talk, which I understand, and I'm doing it too, of just mentally going towards the wild card at this point and kind of forgetting about the division. I'm still in the division mindset, man.
So am I.
Yeah, I want that division. Like, of course I want to make the playoffs overall, but I want that division.
If Milwaukee holds on today, you have the ability to bring it down to a game by winning in your own stadium.
That's what I mean, man.
You're in that mix. Absolutely. Yeah.
And even if you win 2 of 3, you're still right there.
Yeah. So, that's just the general thoughts. I just wanted to touch on that because I did see, there's a lot of debate on that on social media, just about this stretch and all that stuff. And again, it is frustrating, right, that the Brewers just seem to keep winning. I think the Padres have walked in 4 runs today. It just seems like the Cubs can't get any help, right, with Milwaukee. So you're going to have to do it yourself, right? And then you'll be able to look in the mirror and say either we took care of business or we didn't, right?
Yeah.
Anything more on Jordan Wicks? Just again, an incredible debut.
Yeah.
Loved again his sort of mental fortitude to stay in there and continue battling after a start that I think would rattle most people. But just a huge night for the Cubs and their rotation as a whole.
I was more impressed with Jordan Wicks than I initially thought I would be. I thought he would come in and show a good changeup, have command with his 4-seam fastball. We've heard about the horizontal breaking pitches, cutter, curveball, slider, that are works in progress, and it still appears that's the case. But those cutters looked really good. Those breaking pitches looked pretty good. You see the potential in those pitches, and that with the foundation of the 4-seam fastball, of the changeup, with that 4-seam fastball being specifically advantageous because it has relative cut. In some cases, when Jordan Wicks throws 4-seam fastballs, it actually has more cutting action than most pitchers in the league. The maximum range is actually in cutting territory. So that's interesting. And I'm just going forward curious how they develop this guy. Like, the base is so strong. Like, the base for Jordan Wicks is stronger than it was for Justin Steele when Justin Steele is going through the developmental period. Now, it's not to say Jordan Wicks is going to be Justin Steele, but it goes to the fact that having someone with that strong base is encouraging. Now, Justin Steele developed, and we have a chart here in the next few minutes of this podcast, but what Jordan Wicks can do is just have that command, have 5-6 pitch types, and will he have like the wipeout breaking pitch that Steele has? No, but that's okay when you have a changeup like that and the ability to command pitches across different handedness. Really encouraging, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just very exciting. I have a thing for, left-handers.
You might be your guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
Look, it's a...
You see that interview on Marquee today?
Yeah.
I don't know if you... I thought, like, how old is this guy? He's like, what, 23, 24? Seems like he's like in his 30s. He seems more mature than me.
Yeah, that was the reputation when they drafted him. You know what I mean? That he was kind of a put together, not necessarily an overpowering guy, but put together in terms of the repertoire and, his feel for his pitches and things like that. And he's obviously
got that,
saw
like,
that.
Southern Texan accent. He's from Texas, isn't he? He's got that, like, that.
He went to K-State. I'm not sure.
K-State. He was somewhere in that country, part of the country. He's got that sound.
Right. So just an incredible day. We can take our first ad break here in a second, but just to set you up, Brendan and I will be here with you for around an hour of Cubs discussion here.
Not 3 hours.
Want to talk about the, continuing on the trend of the homegrown pitching. We had a full homegrown W on Sunday, Brendan, with Javier Assad, followed by the returning Keegan Thompson, who looked really good. And in the wake of the Michael Fulmer news, again, Michael Fulmer hitting the IL for a little bit here, that would be a big turn of events because Fulmer has been really good and reliable for this team for a while now. So Brendan will break down what we saw from Keegan Thompson. We'll talk about Javier Assad. We have to touch on a 5 RBI day from one Cody Bellinger. Again, Tom, Jed, get the checkbook ready, get the contract ready, just have it ready for the offseason if you can't do it now. And we have to talk about Seiya Suzuki, who I believe had 5 extra base hits in these 4 games in Pittsburgh. on fire, Seiya Suzuki, since that little reset from David Ross. And before we do our first ad break here, kind of looking generally, I will leave you with this before our first ad break here. Since the All-Star break, so the Cubs drop that series to the Red Sox. They win 2 of 3 from the Nationals. They win 3 of 4 from the Cardinals. They win 2 on the South Side against the White Sox. They win another 3 of 4 from the Cardinals. To start August, they win 3 of 4 from the Reds. 2 of 3 from the Braves. They drop that series to the Mets, 2 of 3 there. They win 2 of 3 in Toronto, split with the White Sox, take 2 of 3 from the Royals, take 2 of 3 from the Tigers, and take 3 of 4 from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Look, man, going back to going into that trade deadline, everybody that is a fan and a writer or a podcast or anything of this team laid down the gauntlet. This is the stretch. You have to do it. You have to flip the script, get back in the race, be buyers, and let's see what this team can do. And boy, have the Chicago Cubs answered the call. They are just racking up these series wins.
And
one after one after one after one. Series dub, series dub, series dub. There's a couple, you could call them disappointments in there, maybe, but this team has flipped the switch and they are taking care of business. If it's enough to catch the Brewers, they're going to have to control that when they play them. So we will continue talking about all of that, but want to take our first ad break here from our wonderful sponsors.
CHGO has a weekly Pick X, an NFL Survivor contest for everyone to participate for real money with Splash Sports. Head to splashsports.com/CHGO and sign up. The link is in the description of this episode. Deposit cash to get started, and it's just $10 to enter. CHGO Weekly NFL Pick Contest. There's a first prize of $2,700, a second prize of $1,800, a third prize of $1,350. We'll be running weekly contests all year, so be sure to keep that link handy. And if you want to run your own contest, if you're tired of being the commissioner of your own leagues, chasing people down with none of the reward, you can sign up to be a commissioner right through our link and earn money for the contest you're already running with friends and family. Head to splashsports.com/CHGO to join in. We'll have different contests coming out, so we are stoked to compete with and against you all. Be sure to click our link in the description. Second break here. From Ray, Chevy, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you. Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake have just joined the CHGO team at Ray CDJR. You'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and find unforgettable savings, not unforgivable. And right now, during the Make This Summer event at Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, you'll be able to take up to 20% off MSRP on select new 2023 Ram 1500 models. Yeah, but maybe you're thinking the interest rates might be too high right now. That's not the case at Ray CDJR, because right now, through August 31st, you'll be able to get limited 0% financing for 72 months on select new models. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And for more information, visit Ray CDJR only in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com today, serving the community since 1963.
All right, Brendan, let's get to, as Luke Stuckmeyer would say, the ass man.
The ass man.
We have got to talk about the ass man. Just an incredible start for the Cubs in a weekend full of really nice starts and big moments from this starting staff. Javier Assad with the deepest start, 7 innings, 3 hits, just 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. He continues just a really nice stretch of pitching for this team, being thrown into the rotation and taking the opportunity and running with it. He is easily our DraftKings king of the game. There were a lot of candidates this weekend for the DraftKings king of the game, but none other than Javier Assad. The offense set him up had a nice easy day on Sunday, but the 7 innings, saving those high leverage relievers after the sort of breakdown by Wisniewski on Saturday, letting Mark Leiter Jr. have the day off, Adbert Alzolay have the day off, letting Keegan get an opportunity to shine, right, in some, less leverage moments. Javier Assad is your DraftKings king of the game. Don't forget to use that code CHGO when you sign up with DraftKings. Brendan, talk to me about Javier Assad. He's just on an incredible run as a starter here. He looked great. Just following in Jordan Wicks' footsteps, just with a great start here on Sunday.
Yeah, it's similar to Jordan Wicks in that both these pitchers don't grade well on stuff models, no matter what you look at. And they don't have the heavy, high-velocity fastballs. They don't have the really fast breaking pitches. So by default, they're not going to be atop those lists. But there's a degree of error in their profiles, at least the way I think about it. Like when we talk about these stuff models and these run probability models, there's always a degree of discomfort for me because I don't quite have everything in front of me to figure this stuff out. But for Javier Assad, what you see is that his pitch types look to be in the extreme windows of movement profiles. Like his sinker has more ride to it than most sinkers, like in the 90th percentile. So I wonder how that plays to most hitters who don't see that type of pitch that often. Counterintuitively, you want more sink on your pitches. But what's great about Assad is that he has a diverse repertoire. He has 6 pitch types that he can go out, no matter the handedness, and compete. And for me, I want a pitcher that has a good chance of going 5 innings, day in, day out. And in my mind, the best way to do that is to have a deep pitching mix. And if you look at what Assad did against the Pirates on Sunday, you see like a Skittles looking graph on this screen right now. And these are all the different pitch types he threw. So he threw, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. He threw 6 different pitch types today. And the command with these pitches are pretty good. If you just have your eyes follow the black part of the strike zone, there's so many pitches on the edges of the strike zone and different pitch types, from cutters, from sinkers, from sliders to 4-seam fastballs. And that allowed him to go deep into the game and face the opposite handedness. That's what I'm talking about when I always look for different pitch types. I'm always a little uncomfortable with just 2 pitch guys, because you either have to have elite stuff or command exceptionally well, or it's difficult to get through the order multiple times, as well as sustain that level of success. And you don't have to look too far for 2 examples. And the first example is Justin Steele, who has elite stuff as a 2-pitch guy, and he can get through the order in many months here of starts. But on the other end of the spectrum is Hayden Wisniewski, who has one of the best sliders in Major League Baseball, but only has 2 pitch types that are particularly suited well against right-handed batters and not lefties. Assad and Wicks don't have the potential to get crushed against left-handed batters because they have these pitch types. And when they command well, and when the strategy is executed well from the coaches and the catchers to the pitchers, these are the results you see. Assad's been great. Wicks looked great. And this team needs Assad right now with his pitching staff going through some injuries and going through fatigue. Huge performance, huge week for Javier Assad.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at Assad's numbers since he stepped into the rotation on August 5th against the Atlanta Braves. 3-2 innings there, just 2 earned runs, obviously, jumping back in to the rotation there, so a shorter start. But then on the 11th in Toronto, 7 innings, just 1 run. Against the White Sox, 6 innings, just 2 runs. Against the Tigers on that last road trip, 5 1/3, 2 runs, and then finishing up here in Pittsburgh, 7 innings, just the 1 run. Just an incredible stretch from Javier. And like we said, for him to be flexible in that, playing the different roles, being in relief, being in long relief, then being thrust back into the rotation against, one of the best offenses in the league, and sticking from that point out. As you pointed out, we've talked about guys like Yan Gomes and how kind of underrated perhaps his performance and what he means to this team, and how he's kind of stabilized things at times where other guys were hurt or not performing, etc. this is a huge stretch from Javier Assad. I mean, we have looked at so many different instances of guys struggling to go deep in games, the Cubs debating what to do with Drew Smyly, etc., trying different guys for Javier Assad to step into this rotation, take hold of one of the spots and be so stable, just giving you winnable games, eating innings when he can. It's difficult to, I think, overstate how important what Javier Assad has done for this last month is, because with Marcus Stroman hitting the IL and some of these other guys moving around, Tyone is hit or miss sometimes, right? Like, however you want to look at that. If Assad does not step in and do this, like, where is this team? Where is this rotation, man? Like, it is huge what Javier Assad has done.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. And he's going back and forth from Iowa, too. There's another layer to this. And it's his first full season, Corey, like at the big league level, despite those brief trips back to Iowa. Just incredible. And for me, too, to have Assad go back-to-back with Wicks, and you can see, like, the attitudes they have, like, that gives me a lot of confidence. Like, the body language from these guys are just, like, remarkable. And and you have to listen to his teammates when they pump him up. Like, of course, Adbert Alzolay always has these nicknames, the Tijuana two-seamer, but in that same type of joke, the fastball does play up, and many guys on this staff have talked about Javier Assad's stuff and his fastball being unique. And so if they're talking
Mark Leiter
about
Jr.
this,
was the one in the clubhouse that said he was one of the best pitchers in the league. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that with a straight face. And, like, I don't want to laugh at it or whatever, because who knows, man? Like, he has unique stuff, but, like, he doesn't fit your typical pitching mold. Like, he's not your prototypical modern day pitcher. And you can look at that and be like, I wish we had more guys like Cade Horton. Or you can look at the other way and be like, that's kind of interesting that they have these guys who don't really fit the molds. And there's maybe, like, a different way to go about succeeding that the Cubs are tapping into. And they've done this now with Assad. They've done this with even, like, Mark Leiter, also Leiter, 5+ pitch mix, was kind of in the Assad role last year. And I liked him being able to go against opposite-handedness. And what happened? Having that experience for Leiter, despite the DFA, allowed him to find that splitter. And he's now your left-handed pitcher. He's like your loogie, so to speak, because he has that ability to go opposite-handedness. That's why we were talking about this. I like that ability. It gives me a lot of excitement because the potential is going to be there and be quite high.
Yeah, want to get to a super chat from Will in a second here, but Flat Earth Poker in our YouTube chat says pitchers that wear glasses are underrated. Very true.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Both those guys have the glasses on.
I don't want to mess with what Justin Steele is doing, Kyle Hendricks, but should everybody be wearing the glasses or goggles?
That's what I was saying.
There's very intimidating.
There's glasses. They have the headbands too. Like,
and listen, Steele. How soon, right, if Javier Assad and Jordan Wicks are sticking in this rotation as we expect them to and as their performance so far has dictated, are we selling glasses at Wrigley Field like the Matt Clement goatee thing?
I think you have to.
It seems like a marketing opportunity.
I mean, do you want to support your pitchers or not?
41,000 people in the friendly confines rocking the glasses when Assad or Wicks is on the mound.
I know.
Right? I don't
know. Maybe the clear glasses he had going to. Pretty sharp.
Put me in the marketing department, right? We do have a super chat from Will Collins. Appreciate that, Will. He says Ian Happ killed the consistent 3 spot and set up Belly for success. 3rd most walks in the NL, extends the first inning to give Cody those RBI opportunities. Listen, there's a lot of debate about that. But Ian Happ certainly, look, did you guys know that he's from Pittsburgh? Have you ever heard that before?
No, I didn't.
I think I'm the first person ever to point that out.
From Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He does just he loves hitting there. He really does. And he did have a nice weekend. 1 for 4 in the first game, but obviously that bloop single is the big one and the deciding one, especially to piggyback with Dansby Swanson's excellent base running there in extra innings in that first W. Then Ian Happ in the second game goes 2 for 4 with an RBI. In the third game, 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs. He scores 2 runs, and then in the finale here, just 1 for 4, but he does walk. So overall, a nice weekend from Ian Happ ahead of Cody Bellinger, who is just out of his mind. do you want to talk about who's next? We can go Seiya. Let's
see.
Do
This
Seiya.
is the good thing about doing these episodes these days. There's so many good things to talk about. Remember the dark days last 2 years? Like which fringe guy do you want to talk about? The Frank Schwindels. This is a good problem to have. I think most people want to talk about Seiya. Corey, Seiya looks great. You might be the biggest Seiya guy in the world. You've always believed.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the biggest.
I know.
Seiya guy
I'm exaggerating, but you
but
do believe.
Look, like I think again, Seiya is one of those players where you signed him with a particular intention, right? And we have not seen exactly that player, right? You want the slug and you want the power, but over these last few weeks, you are sort of seeing that. And, I think Ron Coomer was talking about it on the radio broadcast as I was listening on Sunday. You've pointed this out, I think, in, some of your tweets and things like that. He's more aggressive. Ron Coomer was describing it on the radio broadcast on Sunday as it looks like Seiya is going up there with the intention to attack rather than the intention to take, right? And he has patience. He's a guy that can get on base. But he did seem to need to sort of reconfigure things with his approach. And David Ross was very blunt about that before he sat him down for those few games. And boy, has Seiya Suzuki responded about as well as I can remember anybody responding to something like this. Just an incredible stretch for Seiya Suzuki. Like I said, he had 5 extra base hits in this series in Pittsburgh. You look at his last 15 games, he's hitting .364 with a .410 on base percentage and a .673 slugging percentage, 20 hits in 55 at bats. He just looks really, really good. And we've talked about some of the guys really stepping up when you needed it. Certain guys have gone through struggles. Same thing here, right? Like Mike Tauchman has been in a cold stretch. Dansby had been in a cold stretch. Christopher Morel is not playing as much because he's been in a cold stretch. Different guys go through this, right? Like you needed somebody to step up, and Seiya has absolutely done that. He looks great at the plate. Again, does he develop into that 25 to 30 homer player
Absolutely.
you really wanted him to be? We'll see,
We'll
right?
see.
But as we, you and I and a lot of people kind of discussed throughout this season, like that's a question for the longer term, right? For 2023, you needed him to return to being a productive player that gets on base and shows you some of that slug. And he has gotten back to that. His overall line now, I mean, it was not that long ago when he got sat down by David Ross, his WRC plus was below league average. Yeah. He was performing at a below league average level. You look at his overall numbers after a 2 for 5 day, 2 doubles. He scores 2 runs. He walks twice on Sunday in this 10-run affair on Sunday. 270, 342, 443 is his updated slash line on the season. Good for a 113 WRC plus. Again, not exactly where you want it to be overall, but it's ticking back up there. And if you're watching him play, you have all the confidence in the world that by the end of the season, he's going to look really good. Oh, Cody's here. Hi,
we have Cody. I'm surprised Cody survived Vegas. I was concerned about Cody. We had some people concerned about you too, Cody. So welcome back. It is still the summer of Mike Tauchman. He is slumping, but you know what? Seiya's picking him up. Seiya's been great
in center field today.
Great catch in center field, not just a nice one. So, yeah, this is why we had a comment here saying this lineup is deep. And yeah, I like some of the recent performances. You want more offense from certain guys. I know Dansby's going through a little bit of a funk right now, but like this is the highest possible outcome that I imagine going into the year, where Cody Bellinger's slugging. Seiya Suzuki looks like what we thought he would be. You get depth pieces you did not expect in Mike Tauchman. You have Nico, a stabilizing force in this lineup. Same numbers, same stat line as last season. And then you're getting trade acquisitions in the form of Jeimer Candelario. This is what I hope the lineup would be.
Yeah.
And when guys go through funks, whether it be Mike Tauchman or Dansby Swanson, you can match that with guys coming out of their funks, like Seiya Suzuki. And then you throw in Cody Bellinger, who's like an MVP type hitter. It's the formula for winning games. And yes, you want more offense overall, but like this is what I want. This is, to me, the best version of this Cubs lineup.
Absolutely. I also just want to point out, if you're watching us live on YouTube, we have one Cody Del Mendo
Yeah.
using expected batting average metrics in our YouTube chat.
That's not a
Dell
metric.
That's not Dell Metrics.
Did Cody go to Vegas or did he go to school over the week? Did he take one of those?
Yeah. To the lineup though, right? Like it is. It's been a minute since we've seen it really clicking, right? Like 1 through 8 or 9, just everything feels like it is clicking. Everybody's hot at the same time, but that's the dream, right? That you get it going at the right time as we head in September here, or in that first round playoff matchup, whatever. And it feels so deep. You look at the lineup on Sunday, Jeimer Candelario goes 1 for 5, but he hits the home run. That at the time earlier in the game was the game-winning, blow and looked to be the thing. He's got an 836 OPS. He was hitting in the 7-hole today. That's what you want. You want a deep lineup. Now, again, as everybody does, we can debate the structure of the lineup, who goes where, things like that. But it is what you want to see, right? Guys stepping up when other guys are cold, and hopefully at some point in the near future here, you just get a torrid stretch where you kind of go back to those 2016 vibes where the lineup feels relentless and just terrifying for a starting pitcher. Right now, you have guys stepping up when others are cold, which is exactly what you need, and why you go out and get someone like Jeimer Candelario to stabilize your lineup at the trade deadline, right? And take a little bit of that load off of some of these other guys. Yeah. But guys are getting hot, and it's going to start to feel deeper. The lineup is going to start to feel more difficult for these pitchers. It's a nice place to be right now. And again, there's some careful manicuring going on with David Ross right now when he's getting guys in. Patrick Wisdom's not playing all that often. He did get in there on Sunday. Christopher Morel is being given a lot more rest with how cold he's been. Madrigal's been in there more lately. He's trying, right?
Yeah.
But you do feel in a pretty good spot with a lot of these guys as we head into this last month, that if they can really turn it on into that last gear, this lineup has a lot of depth to it.
I'll do this ad break here, but before I do that, Nico Hoerner, can we just pinpoint what he's been doing? Like, again, I alluded to it earlier, but stabilizing force, his numbers this year, Corey. First off, best defensive second baseman in the league, not even close. But his offense right now, WRC plus of 102, batting 280, WOBA 322, has 33 stolen bases, swinging at fewer pitches outside the strike zone. I mean, like, the amount of money they're paying him for the next 3 seasons, that's a steal. And he's able to go in, bat leadoff today, set the table with 3 base hits. I mean, what can you say about Nico Hoerner, Corey? Like, that and Dansby is like, every now and then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, wow, we have Dansby, we have Nico for the next 3.5 years. Like really think about that. That's an unbelievable pillow of comfort. That should give everyone a lot of confidence going forward.
Well, and you look at the stuff from, I think, like Wicks, and Wicks obviously racks up 9 strikeouts, but you look at Assad too, something that you really like to see is these guys attacking hitters. You have a really good defense behind you. You know what I mean? And some days guys are in, Cody's in center or Talkman's in center, etc. But let your defense do the work, right? You got to keep the ball in the ballpark, but the frustrating thing in some of these starts that have gone shorter or things like that are the walks, man. Like, you have a really good defense behind you, pitch to it, Don't serve meatballs, but pitch to it. Let your defense do the work.
It's a delicate balance, right?
Sure.
Like, I'm reminded of this with Yu Darvish years ago. And Yu Darvish went through that funk to start his Cubs career, and then for him, he kind of mentally said, screw it. I'm just going to throw it down the middle and let my stuff play off that window. And the walks went down by 100%. So some guys have to go through these little hiccups. And I'm looking at Hayden Wisniewski right now as the main guy I'm thinking about. But to your point, if they can dial that in and let the defense play, there you go.
Maybe we can touch a little on Hayden when we after this break. I do want to get into Keegan Thompson. I know that is Cody Del Mendo's mayor of Chicago. I don't know if that has legal jurisdiction, but Cody says it, so I believe it.
Well, yeah.
Want to talk about Keegan Thompson. That was a very nice return from him. We can maybe talk about Hayden on Saturday and, kind of how best to use this bullpen going forward if Michael Fulmer is going to miss some time, something you're going to have to be careful with. Obviously, I believe an injury that he's dealt with in the past. So we will touch on all of that and, of course, probably a little on Cody Bellinger as well after our ad break here.
We are so excited to partner with our friends at Circle K. Check out your local Circle K for the best coffee, beer, and snack selection and premium gas. Look out for freebies and giveaways down the road. They have a lot of my favorite road trip snacks. They have all my go-to pickups. I'm a big Cheez-It guy, Corey. I like Cheez-Its. That's my thing. They have Cheez-Its there. They have Skittles, Snickers, all that there. Thanks to Circle K for sponsoring CHGO. Visit the nearest Circle K to pick up all your favorite finds. Final ad break here from our wonderful sponsor, Goose Island. CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company. Chicago's beer since 1988. They have a very deep beer roster. They have the Goose IPA, a 6-time medal winner at Great American Beer Fest, always in style, a citrus aroma, a bold hop finish. They have the Tropical Beer Hug, a dry hopped Imperial IPA, 9.9% alcohol, dangerously easy to drink. They have the everyday beer is what the Brewers are drinking, not the Milwaukee Brewers. It's the Full Pocket Pilsner. It's what Cody Del Mendo chugs back whenever the Cubs win. They also have my favorite, your favorite, even our guy Ryan Herrera's favorite, the 312 Wheat Ale. Grab ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room, or on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer. And then here's Corey to say, get that smash burger as you always typically do.
Absolutely. It's a delicious smash burger if you hit up one of their tap rooms.
There you go.
Can't vouch for it enough.
There you go.
All right, Brendan, let's talk about Keegan Thompson.
Okay.
Keegan Thompson gets back in there. First time we have seen him in a while. And again, like I said, finishes off a fully homegrown win for the Chicago Cubs following 7 strong from Javier Assad. Keegan Thompson goes 2 innings, allows just 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. Count them. 5 strikeouts for Keegan Thompson in his return here. Really nice. And, again, like his time in Iowa was far from like convincing necessarily. It was a good sort of stretch to finish it with a few strong outings, but his velo had struggled when he first got down there, the walks, the runs. Talk to me about what you saw from Keegan Thompson, and I think the biggest question people are going to have, and maybe we don't know this after one outing, right? Is he back? Is this the Keegan Thompson we saw last year? Is this the Keegan Thompson of old? What are the ramifications for the bullpen here? As much as you can answer in just one outing here, just 2 innings, but how did you feel about Keegan on Sunday?
I thought he looked good. I was initially concerned, which is a strong word, but I think it's fair in this case, about his velocity. If you look back the early part of August, when he came back to Iowa, he was sitting like 92-ish. I'm like, oh man, this is not going to work. And that was what he was sitting at in spring training. So I'm like, is he injured? Like something doesn't seem quite right here. And our friend Brian Smith over at Bleacher Nation pointed out in his past few outings in Iowa, the cutter looked to be a strong pitch, as if it were returning to what we saw when he was successful. So given, in my mind, the cutter and the fastball, I was really looking at those 2 pitches when he pitched today. And if you look at it, he used those 2 pitches more than any other pitch type. So the brown cutters down and away to right-handed batters or down and in to lefties were pitched pretty well. Now, could the command improve in this case? Yeah, but it's like 1 outing, his first one back. But the stuff on those pitches looked as if it were 2022. And the fastballs also thrown maybe with perhaps better command than you like. But he was sitting 94 miles per hour today, Corey. And he was throwing those up in the zone. And it's unclear if it's because they were thrown up in the zone, if by default you have more like carry and ride on those pitches, but he did have more vertical break, more ride on those pitches today than he did before he was eventually sent back down. So that's really encouraging. But then there's a side to me that's like, you know what, like, I don't really necessarily care about that stuff. I just want to see Keegan look confident and go out and throw strikes and get results and go multiple innings. Like, you can dial in on these like stuff and the numbers and the inches and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, like, how does he look out there? And the body language was strong. He was attacking the zone. The misses were competitive. Yes, maybe you want better command, but the misses were competitive, and he got 5 strikeouts, and the stuff looked good, and it was within range from what we saw in years past. So, 1, this exceeded my expectations, and 2, yeah, I am now thinking, is Keegan Thompson a guy? And I hope he is. If Keegan Thompson's back in this bullpen, I did not mentally slot that in as a possibility. I was anticipating the Cubs would not have Keegan Thompson the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And with Michael Fulmer now on the shelf with that forearm strain and having Keegan Thompson perhaps back in the mix, that is such a big lift for me mentally in my confidence in this bullpen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also, I mean, dude, it's exciting to see the number. It's been the theme of this podcast is sort of the homegrown, guys that this team has developed. It's exciting to see a lot of these names, getting these opportunities. Javier Assad, Jordan Wicks, Keegan Thompson, Justin Steele, Daniel Palencia, Adbert Alzolay. Like, you're just seeing so much of the Cubs' own influence on so many of these games. And, then you have guys like Mark Leiter Jr., who they've obviously tinkered with and found something really incredible with Mark Leiter Jr. as a reliever. It's just, it's exciting. It does feel validating. You want all of the work. We talk about the pitch lab. We talk about the developments and the infrastructure and stuff. You want to see that stuff start to pay off, right? Like, duh, you want to start seeing those results. And, it was one of those concerns throughout the last core that the Cubs had to spend a lot of money to supplement a lot of those players because they weren't able to crank it out at that time on their own. And so each time you kind of see this, it is really exciting to see so many names that have come through this system that were drafted or signed by this team get up here, get an opportunity, and they're helping the Chicago Cubs win in the middle of a playoff race, Brendan. It's exciting.
It's exciting and something that will carry over to next season. Having this experience and high leverage, locking in certain adjustments, locking in different strategies. Jordan Wicks with the heavy changeup usage. Now I'm curious, as he starts again here in the next week, does he go back to that changeup? Will Miguel Amaya catch him to do the exact same thing he did in his debut? These are really important from just a developmental point of view. It's not just winning this year, which is the number one priority, but it is, okay, what do you take from this experience and how do you grow as a player that you can carry on over to next season? And that's what's going on. And I see a lot of chatter about Ben Brown, he's on the IL, but yeah, like if Ben Brown were healthy, he probably would be up too at some point, given the Cubs' struggles. That's unfortunate, but they're being aggressive too. And that's one thing where I like the anticipation of I like the mindset of like the front office, of the coaches, where they can go out and they're trusting Jordan Wicks in a playoff contending month, in a playoff contending spot that they need a deep start from. I like that aggressiveness, and that is what I was hoping we'd see earlier on, like even dating back to last season, even though they were not in a playoff spot. I like the aggressiveness of pushing these guys forward and getting the most out of them, especially in this high leverage playoff scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we head toward the end of our hour here, we would, of course, Brendan, be remiss if we did not talk a little bit just about Cody Bellinger. As we kind of say every time, there's not that much that is left unsaid about Cody at this point, but just an incredible weekend and day, and you saw it there in Pittsburgh, right? The power he can provide, the slug he can provide. That last double, I think, that he put down the left field line, going oppo, just getting the bat on the ball, guiding it into down the left field line. That is one of those things where we've hammered that K rate, that contact rate for him. That's the type of stuff that it leads to, right? When you're not striking out, when you're simplifying your approach, right? You're able to do that stuff. He has such good speed. He's such a good athlete and base runner that he is able to use the whole field. Again, listening on the radio for that first hit that he had in this one, and Ron Coomer basically ordered it up. He was like, Cody should drive one to that left center gap here and just bring the run
Big
in.
Ron Coomer guy stuff.
And, that's just what he did, right?
Yeah.
Former Cub and All-Star Ron Coomer.
Have you ever told him that, Corey?
I did. Yeah, I yelled that at him in a car.
Wait, so what happened with that? Did he recognize you?
Not
recognize, but did he
I don't know
acknowledge
if
you?
that was when we did the CHGO takeover against the White Sox.
Yeah, the
Morel
Morel
gets the
walk-off.
walk-off. And there was like I think it was a BMW pulling out of one of those lots.
Nice.
And, jokingly, I'm walking with Cody and a few other people going like, oh, nice car. Let's see who it is. And like instinctively, as soon as I saw him, like, hey, wait a minute. It's former Cub and All-Star Ron Coomer. He like looked over, hey.
He's like, who's this psycho? And just kept driving on. Very, very fast to get away from you.
There you go. But just incredible from Cody Bellinger. A few interesting notes. This one from Megan Montemuro of the Chicago Tribune. Cody Bellinger is the first Cub with at least 50 RBIs in a 50-game span since Derek Lee in 2009. In the last 50 years, 7 Cubs have accomplished the feat. Derek Lee, Aramis Ramirez in 2005, Sammy Sosa in 1995, 98, and 2003, Henry Rodriguez in 1999, Andre Dawson in 1987, and Dave Kingman in 1979. That might be Sammy Sosa in 1998 to 2003. I'm not sure how Megan worded the tweet. I would believe it though, right?
Yeah,
so probably. Anytime you're getting mentioned with Sammy Sosa and Derek Lee,
that's the takeaway. Like he's Sammy
good
Sosa.
company.
I think so.
And it is Bellinger's 6th career game with at least 5 RBIs, his first since June of 2021. Again, not much else that you can really say. 2 for 5 in the game on Sunday with 5 driven in. He's got a 143 WRC plus. He's hitting 321 with a 368 on base and a 546 slug. He's been incredible. You got to keep him. He's, you can debate with the Shohei thing, like who your priority is. We don't need to get into that right now, but Cody's got to be a Cub for the longer term. He's been absolutely unbelievable. He is the heart and soul of this offense, and he just continues to show up series after series after series. He is just that dude. He said it in that one video that the Cubs put out. I keep tweeting that picture, like, I'm that guy, right? Yeah. He said it in one of those things. They asked him, are you that guy? He goes, I'm that guy. He is. Cody Bellinger is that
Cody
guy.
Bellinger thing to say. Yeah, I mean, assuming the production continues through September, like, I don't see how you cannot bring him back. Like, how else are you going to replace that type of offensive production if you don't bring back Cody Bellinger? You can point to Ohtani and all that stuff, but Ohtani's going to cost you a lot of money. Cody's not going to cost you near what Ohtani's going to cost you. So it will be interesting. For me, though, we can get into the whole extension stuff. I want to see that for the offseason. There's still a huge number of games left, 30-ish games left. A lot can happen. And we've talked about extensions all throughout the season, even dating back to last season with Ian Happ and Nico Horner. It's the context does change, sometimes pretty rapidly, for the good and the bad. And Stroman, who would have thought 2 months ago we'd be talking about Stroman? Is he going to opt in or opt out? And now it seems like a pretty high probability he's going to opt back into that contract, which would have been insane talking about this in June. So mentally, I don't want to think about that. I want to see how September continues. That we can get an idea of what his contract will even look like. And also too, just focus on the current moment, man. He's killing pitches. He's consistent. He's your typical cleanup hitter playing quality defense in center field and first base. He's everything what you want.
Yep, absolutely. So as we head toward the end here, setting the table on things for you, a huge series at beautiful historic Wrigley Field beginning on Monday night. 3 games with the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers did win on Sunday. They have won 8 games in a row. They come to Wrigley as hot as can be, and it will be on David Ross's Chicago Cubs to sort of plant their flag in this division. This is one of those head-to-head matchups that you have for the rest of the year. You have got to show up in this series, and I think it was Evil Wax earlier in our YouTube chat. You got to punch him in the mouth. You got to remind him that you're here and that you are going to be breathing down their neck for a little bit here, and then hopefully taking over the division at some point in September here. The Cubs at 69-61, 4 games behind the 73-57 Milwaukee Brewers. As Brendan and I record this right now, we are live on YouTube. It is 4:32 in Chicago, so I think some games still to be decided on Sunday. But the Cubs hold sole possession of the second wild card in the National League. They are 3 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies for that first National League wild card spot. They are a game ahead of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are playing right now against the Reds for that third spot. The Reds a half game behind Arizona. The Giants 1.5 behind Arizona, and Miami 2.5 behind Arizona. And right now, with some other teams at 7.5 games back or more, that is kind of your group looking at the NL playoff race as we head into this last series in August. But Brendan, pretty simple, man. This is what you've been waiting for, right? You've taken care of business. You've won almost every series you have played since the All-Star break, save for a couple, right? This is what it was all building for, is playing the Milwaukee Brewers and taking care of business. As always, you can't demand a sweep. The Brewers have won 8 games in a row. Win the series at Wrigley Field. That's step 1, and then you go take care of your business until I think you see them again in that last series of the year.
I just had deja vu. Like, we used to mention this in like 2018, 2019. Just win the next series. Just win the next series. And that's really, like, it sounds stupid to say, but like, hearing you say that brings me back to those times of like having expectations that this team is a legitimate contender. That's a good feeling to have.
Absolutely.
Corey. Like, we've been waiting for this for the past several years now, going through some dark times. I remember we recorded an episode, I think in May or June, whatever it was, when they were like losing games nonstop, 8 games below 500, got swept by the Reds. I'm in a dark spot. I'm like wondering, like, like, how is this offseason even going to shape up if you have some of these guys going through these funks? Like, what does that mean for the front office, some of these coaches? I was in dark times. And to see them turn around this significantly, and there was a moment too, I don't know if you remember this, we were talking about this in one of those episodes in May, and like I said, this is what I need to happen for me to change my expectations.
Yeah.
I need the Cubs to have stability in the rotation. I need the Cubs prospects to go through extreme adjustments, Alcantara extreme, PCA extreme. I need them to push the boundaries on promoting guys. And like you joked, oh, is that all it is?
Yeah. They did it.
They did it,
yeah.
Which is what I'm trying to say. So I'm dwelling on that, and I don't want to talk about extensions or anything like this. This type of competition is fleeting, Like, who knows what they'll be? We think they're going to be here for the next several years, but you just don't know. So I'm going to enjoy what they have. I'm going to enjoy Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner playing middle infield defense, Cody Bellinger in center field or in first base backing them up, and having Kyle Hendricks add another layer to his legacy. He's been with the team for almost a decade. He's bridging 2 eras. Like, I always joke about Matt Murren. Oh, I love Matt Murren in 2016 because he's a bridge to that era. Like, we're seeing now Kyle Hendricks too. This is fun. This is exceeding my expectations, and I'm going to enjoy every second of this.
Yep. And again, setting it up, this is the stretch that you wait for, right? It's going to be tense. It's going to be nerve-wracking. There's going to be some joyous moments, I would bet. There's probably going to be some more frustrating moments. But here's how it lays out. I just read those standings to you. Here's the Cubs' upcoming schedule. They have 3 at home with the Milwaukee Brewers, an off day on Thursday, and then they have 3 in Cincinnati, 3 at home against San Francisco, and 4 at home against the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you were listening when I read those wild card and division standings,
let's go.
That's all those teams. Those teams are the ones in either the division race or the wild card race. This is what you want. This is what you live for. Again, and we were doing one of those post-game shows, and it was our guy Greg Braggs who was producing, and he was saying, listen, this is what you live for. You don't want to feel frustrated after a bad loss or something, but it's good to feel something. This is what you want. That you want competitive playoff baseball at the end of the year. This is the stretch. This is going to be
sweating,
a season maybe not defining, but this is going to be a huge stretch of this season. And the Cubs have put themselves in a position, Brendan, where they can take care of their own business and get themselves into the playoffs. And that is what you want. Put your head down, win games, just keep winning.
I'm very nervous right now. For some reason, that makes me more nervous, but this is it. Let's go.
Absolutely. And Brendan, before we sign off, we do have one more sponsor, our wonderful friends at Shady Rays. You guys know it. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That is not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building playsets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't like your Shady Rays, and you will, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There is no risk when you shop. The Shady Rays team always has your back. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. All right, guys, that is what Brendan and I have for you this week. Cody, Luke, Ryan, I think I'm going to try to get in the studio at some point this week. Pre-game, post-game, CHGO Cubs team has you covered. You can always, of course, check out allchgo.com for great written content. You can follow the CHGO Cubs team at CHGO_Cubs on Twitter. We got you covered, guys. All your Cubs coverage, the CHGO team will have you. We appreciate it. Brendan and I will be back with you next Sunday. Hopefully, we're talking a big week against a couple of NL Central rivals in the Brewers and the Reds, but it starts on Monday. A huge series at Wrigley Field. We have been waiting. We have been salivating. We are ready for it. I will be there at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field. You know it. Bringing the vibes like I always do. And by vibes, I mean nervously, like shaking in my seat.
Sitting there in silence for most of the game. Yeah.
But let's go. We've been waiting for these types of games for a few years now. We've got them. Playoff-like atmosphere at Wrigley Field. You know the friendly confines is going to be rocking. Let's win a series here against the Brewers, and then we'll take it day by day. Thank you guys for joining us on the CHGO Cubs podcast. Brendan and I will talk to you next Sunday. And as always, go Cubs.